Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees lose 2 of 3 to the Detroit Tigers. They do avoid the sweep and have not been swept at home all season, so that remains true with 2 home series to go. But the gauntlet 12-game, 4-series stretch hits a little bit of a rut here, as the Yankees lose in very ugly fashion in games 1 and 2. The bullpen absolutely implodes. And the Yankees lose back-to-back games by 10 plus runs, which is the third time in franchise history. Happened in 1908, 1988, and now here in 2025. And look, these were actually 2 very close games, and then it just all got away from the Yanks. In game 1, it was the 7th inning where it totally blew up. And then in game 2, it was the 8th inning where it really, that was more of game 1 was concentrated, between 2 pitchers that really, really did horrifically. One being Fernando Cruz, who had been doing very well. The other, Mark Leiter Jr., who has really had a rough go of it for a while. His role has really diminished. In general, he hasn't pitched much lately, but he kind of factored into both losses. But yeah, Cruz and Leiter Jr. did not record a single out. In fact, all 9 base runners reached and scored against Cruz and Leiter Jr. Crazy to think of that, and the thing is, it was a 2-2 game at the time. In fact, the Yankees were actually up 2-0 in this game. And, coming off of the 2 straight wins versus the Blue Jays, things were kind of feeling pretty good at that point. But yeah, just some stats to kind of wrap your head around. It was the first time in franchise history the Yankees had 2 pitchers that allowed 4+ earned runs and got 0 outs in a game. And the fact that it happened in the same inning as well, I feel like that's not even being mentioned as part of the stat is crazy. And the Yankees are the second team in Major League Baseball, or the second Major League team in the last 75 years to have 2 relievers allow 4+ earned runs and get 0 outs in a game. The other team to do it was the Angels in 1999 against the then Indians. And then just in general, when you go to game 2 again, first time in franchise history, the Yankees bullpen allowed 9+ runs in back-to-back games. They allowed 10 in the first game and then 9 in the second. Just crazy, crazy stuff all the way around. And it's a huge concern. The Yankees bullpen, now this was a stat going through the second game, but it still kind of holds, somewhat similarly true. Like since August 1st, since the trade deadline, so, about a month and a half, a little shy than that, it's a 5.57 ERA. And the only teams with a worse bullpen ERA in that span are the Marlins and the Rockies. That's it. But look, game 3, Yankees kind of get into the home run act a little bit, courtesy of Aaron Judge with 2 homers. And, they get their 9 runs. And, it wasn't the best Tiger pitching, and that does help. That does help. The Yankees do very well against mediocre to below average pitching. That's just the way that it is. And that, again, was the case here. And it just, the Yankees have a lot of lopsided wins. What they really didn't have is that many lopsided losses, and they get 2 of them in games 1 and 2. And again, this isn't me trying to just defend anything. It's just kind of what it was. But, really, games 1 and 2 you had a tie game going to the 7th inning in game 1, and you had a tie game going into the 5th inning in game 2. So, whereas game 3, the Yankees really had it from the beginning and just kind of held it. But where do we sit now in the standings? Unfortunately, the Yankees dropped a game further from the Blue Jays within this stretch. Blue Jays took 2 of 3 home against the Astros. Yankees lose 2 of 3 to the Tigers. Not great. And as well, the Red Sox took 2 of 3 against the Athletics. So the Yankees lost the game to the Red Sox. So now here's where it sits. Yankees are 3 games back of the Blue Jays, but essentially 4 with the tiebreaker. So the Yankees are going to have to make up 4 games on Toronto with 16 games to go. Not going to be easy. Not impossible, but really not going to be easy. So look at it this way. Yanks got to go 11-5, 12-4, and Toronto's got to go like 7-9, 8-8. Again, like you're at a point now where it could still happen, but I don't feel great about those chances currently. With the Red Sox, it's pretty much close to a tie. Yankees have played 1 less game and thus have 1 less loss. So quite literally, whoever wins this upcoming Yankee Red Sox series will be ahead of the other team. If the Red Sox take 2 of 3, they will be ahead of the Yankees. If the Yankees take 2 of 3, they will remain ahead of the Red Sox. And you could really go as far as to say the winner of the series, quite possibly, with only 2 weeks left after the series, has the upper hand and very well may be the home team in a Yankees Red Sox wild card series, which I really, really do think is important. The Yankees have not shown much of an ability to beat. I mean, they got swept at Fenway. They didn't do much better at home, but both teams, especially Boston, Boston is much better at Fenway. Whereas the Yankees, like, they're better at Yankee Stadium, but it's not quite as drastic as the Boston records. But I really do think we saw it in 2021 in a 1-game playoff where the Yankees lost. That I look back at that and we might have still lost to the Red Sox. But I think that certainly did not help matters at all. It just didn't. So this is a gigantic series. But let's get back to that after discussing this Tiger series. And now, for what it's worth, the Yankees are 2.5. I'd kind of give it more 3 because the Tigers have the tiebreaker of the Yankees. They're about essentially 3 games back of the Tigers. If they were to somehow catch the Blue Jays, you know, where do you then sit with Detroit? And this wasn't great. Also, as I had said last episode, this was the return of Leiter Torres, who looked very good. We'll talk about him. He did well. Tommy Kahnle as well. Not as great for Tommy Kahnle. He's really, really had a rough go for the last few months after a good start with Detroit. It seems, I don't know, his arm is kind of got the best of him, it seems like. And Tommy Kahnle, may not have much of a role in that Tiger bullpen come playoff time. It kind of looks like to me. But let's discuss the first game, right? Let's get to it. And the Yankees starting pitching has been very good. Like, really, consistently now. The starting pitching has been real solid. The 5-man unit of Fried, Rodon, Schlittler, Heel, Warren, whatever order you want to have it. Look, it's not always going to be perfect. Every now and then there's going to be some rough outings. Like we saw for a while there where Fried and Rodon weren't really pitching the best, but it's been good. And the bullpen's been terrible. I mean, you can't say that you feel great about anyone of real meaning in this bullpen lately other than David Bednar. And Fernando Cruz, you felt all right about until the horrific outing that we're going to talk about here. And I'm not going to count Ryan Yarbrough, who honestly, has done a pretty nice job out of the pen, but that's, I'm not going to go there because, again, his role is not anything too substantial currently. So game 1. And you know what? Let's just say it right out of the bat here. Anthony Volpe starts game 1. However, Caballero starts games 2 and 3. And now all of a sudden you're starting to hear about Anthony Volpe and a partially torn labrum in his left shoulder. This was the injury that occurred in early May in a diving play, I believe against the Rays. And it didn't look great at the time, and he kind of played through it. And either way, it's a bad look, right? It's excuse making on the one hand, inherently, but also that is not great that he was playing through that. Again, an ineffective player when healthy is even worse with a fairly legitimate injury. Now, it doesn't sound like he's going to go on the IL, but I'll tell you this, as this series ends, for the first time, I can say that it would seem to be that Jose Caballero, while not with a huge stranglehold on it, Caballero is the starting shortstop. If the playoffs started tomorrow, Caballero would be the starting shortstop. Let's see what happens in the next 2.5 weeks, but it is his job to lose now. And I welcome that. And Volpe did struggle in game 1, got booed a lot. We'll talk about that. Definitely some struggles at the bottom of the order from Volpe and Ryan McMahon. And McMahon's been great defensively, but it's not been great at the dish. But yeah, this was a series where games 1 and 3 had Judge and Wright and Stanton DH, and then vice versa, where game 2, Stanton and Wright, Judge DH. So it seems they're going to switch off with Judge probably getting more of the lion's share of opportunities there, but they're going to mix it up. And yes, that's kind of the game 1 outlook on things. For Will Warren, really makes one mistake, which kind of ends up being a difference maker, but he goes 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. A very good outing for Will Warren. Again, It's unfortunate he was given a 2-0 lead and kind of gave it up right away, in essence, but like still, I'll take 6 innings, 2 runs all day long. Against a good Detroit team. For the Tigers, it was Casey Mize who ends up getting the win. Really kind of got better and better as the game went on. He goes to 14-5 with that win. 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, no walks, and 8 strikeouts. Um, Pitched pretty well. First inning, Yankees get on the board, and it's Aaron Judge, who is starting to get going now offensively. I just really hope he can take them into Fenway. He's had his struggles against the Red Sox. He has. And so I'm really, really curious to see what now happens with a hot Judge going against a team where there's been some struggles. Judge, 44th homer of the season. He passes Yogi Berra on the all-time Yankee home run list. And so at that point, he is now fifth in Yankee home runs. So let's jump all the way to the bottom of the fourth. Although, there was a really nice catch by Trent Grisham, who may or may not have robbed a home run of Trey Sweeney in the top of the third. Bottom of the fourth, Cody Bellinger gets in on the act, his 28th home run. So he's knocking on that door for 30 homers. He's really not that far away from 100 RBIs. I think we're talking somewhere in the range of maybe 2 homers and about 10 more RBIs for a 30-100 year for Cody Bellinger. Makes it 2-0 Yankees, and you're feeling pretty good about things. Again, like considering, they win a series with the Astros, win a series home against the Blue Jays, now up 2-0 in game 1 against the Tigers, but it all kind of turns around. Top of the fifth, leadoff walk Spencer Torkelson, and then a 2-run homer for Parker Meadows, his 4th homer of the year, to tie it up at 2. And then the bottom of the fifth was really, really frustrating. First and second, no out. And Anthony Volpe is trying to bunt, which on the one hand makes total sense, but a couple reasons why it doesn't. Ryan McMahon is on deck. Do you feel great about Ryan McMahon getting a sac fly, in all honesty, if Volpe does lay it down successfully? I don't. And the other thing is, Anthony Volpe can't bunt, which is just an indictment in and of itself. And he gets ahead in the count 2-0. At that point, for me, now, the 2-0 pitch he bunts foul, that was a strike, but I might be taking off the bunt there, and the 2-1 pitch, which is an inside pitch as well. This is a ball to Anthony Volpe. He pops it up out to the third baseman, Cole Keith. Inexcusable. Terrible. So if Anthony Volpe's not striking out, he's fucking up when it comes to the fundamentals of the game. Bunt pop out, and then Ryan McMahon strikes out, which was bad. And again, McMahon had those couple good games against the Astros, but again, besides that, has not really done a whole lot offensively. And then Trent Grisham on a 3-0 count flies out to center on what was a strike, but it was not down the middle. And with Aaron Judge on deck, that was not a smart move there by Trent Grisham. So a terrible sequence. Warren does get the job done on the 6th, but then at the top of the 7th for Fernando, Cruz, and Mark Leiter Jr., it was an absolute nightmare. And let's just go right through it. It was really, really ugly. And look, for Fernando Cruz, it's a mulligan. He had been really, really good lately. Hopefully it's just a one-off, but ground rule double Riley Green, walk Spencer Torkelson, which hurt, walk Wenzel Perez, so Cruz's command is just off at this point. RBI single Parker Meadows makes it 3-2. Bases loaded, walk Dylan Dingler makes it 4-2. So 5 batters faced, all of them reached. 3 walks, a double, and a single. And now Mark Leiter Jr. comes on. And it ain't great. So this is where Trey Sweeney singles. And I think this might have been the play where it was a drawn-in infield, and Volpe was unable to get it. Now, look, it wasn't an easy play for Volpe. Again, could other shorts have made that play? Yes, possibly. But, it dunks in, right? So at that point, it's not as if Leiter Jr. got hit hard. But then things just go kind of haywire. So it's 5-2 at this point. Cole Keith hit by a pitch 6-2. Gleyber Torres bases loaded walk 7-2. Wild pitch while Kerry Carpenter is up 8-2. And then a 2-run triple for Kerry Carpenter makes it 10-2. Crazy. So for Mark Leiter Jr., it's 4 batters faced, 4 reach with a triple, a single, a hit by pitch, and a walk. And let's just throw in a wild pitch for good measure as well. So, yeah, for Mark Leiter Jr., absolute disaster. 10-2 game. Tim Hill comes on and gives up the runner that was on third eventually scores on an RBI granted by Wenzel Perez to make it 11-2. Um, and then Paul Blackburn would come on to pitch the final 2 innings of this game. And in the eighth inning, little bit of a 2-out rally where it ends up where Riley Green uh, gets an RBI single to make it 12-2. And that would be your final score 12-2 Detroit. Again, things went from looking pretty good to just straight awful. Yankee offense does basically nothing besides those 2 solo shots, and Cruz and Leiter Jr. get lit up. Game two, a fairly similar script. Really, really was. Not quite exactly the same, but pretty damn similar. So this was a game where Carlos Rodon was cruising along and had one difficult inning in the fifth. He loses to go to 16-8, which is unfortunate. Was hoping he could maybe get that league leading 17th win. Wasn't to be. Hopefully Max Fried can get that on Saturday against the Red Sox. But 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts for Rodon in the loss. For the Tigers, it was Jack Flaherty with the win. And that hurts because he's been really, really bad lately. He wins to go to 8-13, 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. He was on the ropes at certain points, and the pitch count was high, but he was able to make the pitches, and the Yankees just didn't look great. So in this game, again, as far as that lineup's concerned, Caballero in for Volpe and the Judge Stanton switch positionally. Other than that, it was the same lineup as game one. Look, you're not going to see much of Jason Dominguez. That's just the way it is. Unfortunately for him, it's going to be hard for him to get playing time. It's just the nature of it. But yeah, as far as Yankee opportunities, not many of them. I want to talk about maybe some of the better ones. Or again, there really wasn't many of them. Not the greatest of games for Aaron Judge, even though games 1 and 3 were really good. So for Judge, and what actually sucked was, not a great job by the home plate up in the first inning where Judge probably should have walked. It would have made it first and second, no out. Maybe the whole situation goes different, but he ends up striking out looking. Bottom of the third, first and second, 1 out for Judge on a 3-1 count, double play. So again, the Yankees had a chance to maybe, jump out to the lead, couldn't do it. And then in the fifth inning, a frustrating inning from Rodon, who was really cruising along to this point. 1-out single Dylan Dingler, and then the inexcusable parts. A 4-pitch walk to Parker Meadows and a hit by pitch of Javier Baez. The 8th and 9 hitters in the lineup, you cannot do that. Bases loaded, 1 out. Rodon does get ex-Yankee Jemai Jones to strike out swinging, and then it's Gleyber Torres, the former Yankee who had been a Yankee for a while, had been in the Yankee system since that trade with the Cubs in 2016, and as far as Major League service time, since 2018. And Gleyber Torres on a full count is able to win the battle versus Rodon and get a 2-run single to make it 2-0 Tigers. And the problem that I have with the Yankees is in games like this year, it feels like the Yankees don't come back in this style of game where a team may take that lead middle of the game, late part of the game, and there's not that response that I would hope for. Rodon pitches a scoreless 6. And then in the bottom of the 6th, a little bit of an opportunity. They bring on the lefty Tyler Holton, and so then the Yankees counter that with Ahmed Rosario pinch hitting for McMahon. He gets a single to start it out. Rosario in these pinch hitting situations against lefties has done pretty well. It's been his role. But then they have Trent Grisham hit for himself, which I disagree with. I do. I'm not saying I like Austin Slater much, and I don't, to be honest with you. I think Austin Slater, like if you look at the playoff roster, if you were to subtract one player from the current roster, I think it very well probably could be Austin Slater. Now, either way, though, Trent Grisham, who has had a great season, right? And he can work the walk, if nothing else, but he strikes out looking lefty. Again, I didn't love the fact that he was hitting for himself there, and then Judge grounds into a double play again. So again, rough night for Judge. Score remains 2-0. And then in the 7th, Mark Leiter Jr. comes on. And, you get a leadoff single for Parker Meadows. And then what should have been or could have been a double play ball. Again, Rosario's in at third at this point. Baez single under the glove, or might have tipped off the glove of Rosario. Look, he's not a great fielder. It's a play he has to make. And so now pinch hitter Kerry Carpenter's up for Jemai Jones, and it's a wild pitch by Mark Leiter Jr. Although This was the play actually that got caught up in Wells's like gear. So I guess they award that a wild pitch. A little bit strange as far as the ruling on that. Don't see that too often, but Leiter Jr. does get Carpenter to strike out. So he leaves the game, didn't do particularly well, but second and third one out, and Camilo Doval comes on, and you're looking to get that strikeout, but Gleyber Torres is able to put the bat on the ball and gets an RBI ground out to make it 3-0. And then Doval strikes out Winsell Perez. There was a leadoff off for Bellinger in the seventh, and then Ben Rice double play, so that kind of stunts any chance there. And then in the eighth inning, Camilo Doval just gets racked. And he has just been terrible as a Yankee. Not a guy you want in there. Again, the circle of trust, it's not very much, but it's really, really small. Because for me, like from a right-handed side perspective, right? Tim Hill is like kind of a niche. I don't like to include him because again, his role is just completely different. Like right now, and I know that these aren't the only two guys that have struggled, but Camilo Doval and Mark Leiter Jr., like they can't see the light of day at all. This isn't me, you know, giving a backhanded compliment to Devin Williams or even Luke Weaver, who struggled lately, but still, like, the facts are like Doval, you can't use him. So what happens is he gives up a 2-run homer to Riley Green to start the eighth. 33rd over of the year, 5-0 Tigers. There was a double by Dylan Dingler on the way out for Doval, and then an error on Cody Bellinger allowed him to go to third. And then Tim Hill actually had his struggles. RBI single to Parker Meadows makes it 6-0. And then it's 2-run homer by Kerry Carpenter, lefty. So Hill with some rare struggles versus lefties. 24th homer of the year makes it 8-0 Tigers. So absolute implosion in the eighth between Doval and Tim Hill. Then in the bottom of the eighth, the Yankees get their one run on an Austin Wells homer, his 21st homer of the year. So Austin Wells has picked it up of late, which is good to see. Makes it 8-1. Ninth inning, Luke Weaver gets tattooed. And he comes into a situation that really is unideal. It's an 8-1 game. Ideally, he wouldn't come in, but he comes in and struggles. Sack fly, Riley Green makes it 9-1. And then Colt Keith as a pinch hitter with a 2-run shot. His 13th over of the year makes 11-1, to the point where now Austin Slater, the position player, has to come into pitch, and he's able to actually get a couple of outs and doesn't get a run. Yankees lose by a score of 11-1. Let's go to the final game. Yankees avoid the sweep, which I am proud about for the fact that they haven't been swept at home all year. Would like for that to continue, of course, with 2 more home series to go to end the season against the White Sox and Orioles. But Cam Schlittler gets the job done, and it kind of finishes off what was a really nice rotation series for the Yankees. And Schlittler, a nice bounce back game for him after struggles against the Blue Jays. A win that allows him to go to 3-3, 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts for Schlittler. For the Tigers, it was a bullpen game. The loss ends up actually going to Tyler Holton. So now he goes to 5-5. He won an inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. But it was really the bulk guy, and the main guy was Sawyer Gibson Long, who got rocked. 2 and a third innings, 7 hits, 7 runs, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. He's got a 7.180 ERA. That's my point, is that, look, it's hard to give the Yankees a crazy amount of credit. Gibson Long's been terrible. So the Yankees caught the break by not facing Skubal, because he could have, in theory, pitched this game, but they didn't go that way. And that ends up helping the Yankees out. So Austin Slater gets the rare start. Actually leads off this game. Starts in left. Trent Grisham got the night off. Paul Goldschmidt would be in the lineup in the starting lineup for the first time since the first game against the Blue Jays. Ben Rice moves to catcher, so Austin Wells was out. And again, Caballero in over Volpe, and Caballero actually had a really nice night. First inning, Aaron Judge gets it going with his 360th career home run, 45th homer of the season, gives Yankees a 1-0 lead. In the second, though, was Schlittler's probably toughest inning. There was another one where he got in a little bit of trouble, but this one, they made him work. Dylan Dingler with a great at-bat, which ends up in an RBI single to make it 1-1, but that's all it would be. And then the Yankees really from there, second inning, third inning, fourth inning, get it done. Jazz leadoff single off Holden. They take him out. That's a tough way to lose, where like he gives up that leadoff single in the second of the tie game and he ends up scoring, and that's how he takes the loss. But eventually a Jazz steal when Sawyer Gibson Long comes in. An RBI double by Ben Rice makes it 2-1. Jose Caballero, RBI single, makes it 3-1. In the bottom of the third, Aaron Judge homers again. 46th homer of the year. He ties Joe DiMaggio for 4th all time on the Yankee home run list. And then Giancarlo Stanton, he hits his 20th homer. So he adds to the 20 home run guys. Stanton, who has actually really struggled a lot lately. He's striking out a lot, hasn't looked so good. So nice to see him homer. His 20th homer of the year gives the Yankees a 5-1 lead. Bottom of the 4th, another nice inning for the Yanks. Leadoff double for Ben Rice, single Jose Caballero, an RBI single for Austin Slater with 1 out, gives the Yanks a 6-1 lead. Then they bring on lefty Bailey Horn with the bases loaded, and Cody Bellinger gets an RBI single. Then with 2 out, Jazz Chisholm Jr. with a 2-run single gives the Yankees a 9-1 lead. Cam Strittler would avoid a bases loaded jam in the 5th, which was nice. And then he goes 6 innings. So again, a really good job by Cam Strittler. Top of the 7th, it would be Ryan Yarbrough that would come in. He would allow a home run to Dylan Dingler, his 13th homer of the year, to make it 9-2. Tommy Kahnle came out in the 7th and did have his struggles, but once a new pitcher came in, Kahnle's runs did not score. So we can thank Keter Montero for that. But Ryan Yarbrough in the 9th would allow a run on an RBI ground out by Gleyber Torres, but he picks up the save actually because he goes 3 innings. And so it's his first save of the season, and the Yankees win it 9-3. And now it's the Red Sox series. This is where it's at right now. And it begins a 10-game road trip for the Yankees, but it also kind of ends this stretch. So, this is the last road trip for the Yanks. Goes from Boston to Minnesota to Baltimore. And here are the pitching matchups. It is going to be Luis Gil against Lucas Giolito. And that was actually a rematch of the game 1 recently at Yankee Stadium, which was won by the Red Sox. But the Yankees did pretty well against Giolito. I look at this game, and now we're going to take a look at each one. This one, again, it's winnable for the Yanks. Because we're going to talk about one that I don't love, but this one is winnable. Maybe even arguably, honestly, the most winnable. I'll go as far as to say that. Game 2 is Max Fried versus Brian Bayo. Now, this is the 3rd time that it's funny how it's the same exact matchups again. The Yankees have lost the first 2 times that these two have faced off, but Max Fried did well, honestly, in both outings. But especially last time, but Bayo was just better. Bayo has been fantastic against the Yankees, and just overall has been very good. So that is your game 2 matchup. Out of all of the 3 matchups, it's probably your best pitching matchup on both sides. But now let's talk about Sunday Night Baseball, and it's Garrett Crochet, right? And he is the best pitcher going in this series of the 6 starters. And he's going against Will Warren, which is actually a rematch of the game that the Yankees had lost, where they ended up getting killed in that Saturday game against the Red Sox, where Crochet pitched well. Now, the funny thing is the Yankees, they kind of did all right against Crochet at Yankee Stadium earlier in the year, but really struggled against Crochet that start at Fenway, where Judge tied it up in the 9th. And Will Warren, he was okay in that first start at Yankee Stadium, but then, wasn't great by the end. Again, game 3 is going to be tough. It's in the Yankees' best interest to find a way to win games 1 and 2. I really hope the Yankees win 2 of 3. I'm not confident that they will. I'm really not. I'm really, really not. Now, could they be swept? Yes, they could. My prediction is that they lose 2 of 3. And that's just kind of the easy prediction. But win game 1 and go from there. These are huge, huge games. It's really your last really, really big head-on series in this regular season. Make the most of it. And it'll go a long way as far as the standings, right? Because you can leave this series in a position of, hey, looking decent to, at the very least, finish at home against the Red Sox in the playoffs and maybe have aspirations to catch the Blue Jays. Or it can go the other way where it's like, fuck, AL East is done, and you're just hoping somehow that you can maybe catch Boston. So we'll know a lot coming out of the series. And it's time for the Yankees to get it going, because as far as this 12-game gauntlet, right now they're 5-4. And how we judge it is really going to come down to this series completely. If they win it, I think we're going to look back on the 4 series as a success. If they lose it, we won't. So let's see what happens. I'm looking forward to it cautiously, not cautiously optimistic, just more sort of, it's going to be entertaining. but let's just hope that it goes the Yankees' way. So Yankees lose the series to the Tigers at home. Bullpen completely implodes in games 1 and 2. However, the Yankees do avoid the sweep. Aaron Judge with a couple of home runs in game 3 to tie Joe DiMaggio, the Yankee all-time home run list. And now so begins the last road trip of the season, a 10-game road trip, which begins in Boston with a pivotal series against the Red Sox.